I'm Dan Peffler in New York with this ABC News digital special report. Police in London investigating a suspected terror attack. A man killed on a street corner. ABC's Nick Schifrin is in London with the details as they are still breaking at this hour. Nick, what do we know about this attack?
It was a very savage attack. We believe that two people carrying meat cleavers attacked what might have been a British soldier in the street just outside of his barracks in southeast London. And they took a few minutes and savagely beat him. They beat him with those cleavers. And afterward, they turned to some of the eyewitnesses there and actually asked them to turn on their cameras. And this is what one of those men said. He said, we swear by Almighty Allah, we will never stop fighting you until you leave us alone. Your people will never be safe. The reason we've done this is because Muslims are dying by British soldiers every day. This British soldier is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And that has led British officials here to call an emergency meeting of the cabinet and label this a possible terrorist attack. So,
Nick, just to kind of clarify then on this, and we have two suspects in custody right now, obviously being questioned or at least being detained, certainly. In Scotland Yard investigating this as a terror attack. Do we know anything? I know the British Prime Minister was on a trip. Has he made any kind of a statement from this attack?
No, he's going to make a statement before he comes back from Paris, and he is cutting that trip short. And that's another sign that British officials are obviously taking this very seriously. There was a plot in 2008. A man up in Birmingham, which is northern England, was convicted of plotting to kill and behead a British soldier. And so the fear is that this attack might be some kind of version of what in 2008 that man was convicted for. But all we know right now is a man in southern London was savagely killed, and authorities here are treating this very seriously and calling it a possible terrorist attack.
What about the fact that we're hearing also that people that you had mentioned, eyewitnesses to this, were being told to record this on their cell phones? Is there now a call out by Scotland Yard for those people to come forward to sort of reveal some of that video so they might be able to piece together the timeline for this attack?
Yeah, I mean, that video has actually already aired, and we're not able to show it to you right now. But basically what it shows is a man with a South London accent coming up to somebody with a cell phone, perhaps an iPhone, and his hands are full of blood, and he's holding a meat cleaver, and you can see the body of the victim in the background. And it is a disturbing video. As one reporter here put it, the man who shot it said that he feels like it was Iraq-style violence in southern London. And the fact that that man opened up to that camera and actually invited the camera to start filming and said what he said, talked about how he, in his words, British soldiers were killing Muslims, and this was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This was obviously what British officials are saying, a politically motivated attack, and that is what's leading them to believe this is an act of terror.
Do we know at this point if British police, if they have put any other areas in the city on alert, if there's any kind of lockdown, if there's any kind of heightened awareness that this might be the beginning of something else, or are they saying that this is an isolated incident? I know it's very early on to speculate, but I'm just wondering if in fact there is any kind of public announcement being made throughout London because of this.
No, it is an important question, and actually police went out of their way to say that this was an isolated incident. They don't have any other parts of London under any kind of scrutiny. The area around that has been completely closed off, and it was right outside a school, and so they're also dealing with some of the students who had to hear some of those cries. There was a helicopter by police that actually landed inside that school, and a lot of the teachers at that school have been interviewed trying to describe how they've been shielding the students from what happened just outside the front gates. But right now we believe this is an isolated incident. No reason to believe this is any kind of wave of attacks or the beginning of multiple attacks. This was a single attack in southeast London.
And Woolwich, if you can explain kind of the area, is it a heavily populated area? I know they said that there's a school nearby, but is there a lot of passers-by that go into this area?
Yeah, it's a working class neighborhood of southeast London, and I think the most important part of the neighborhood, at least related to the story today, is that this possible soldier, it's not confirmed, but we believe this person was a soldier. There was an army barracks right near that area. It's a barracks in the middle of southeast London, and so authorities are looking into whether this person was associated with that barracks right there. But it happened about 3 o'clock local, and right before that school was let out, right before the rush hour, so it's a busy street, and these two people apparently just grabbed this person, dragged him right into the middle of the street, and killed him right there.
Okay, all right. And the British Prime Minister is on his way back now, Nick, as you had said, from that trip to Paris, and he is expected to make a statement at the top of the hour, which of course we'll be monitoring for that. But if you are just joining us right now, a possible terror attack in southeast London, where it is believed a soldier was killed in a vicious, brutal attack by two suspects with meat cleavers. And with us now in London is ABC's Nick Schifrin. And Nick, I'm just wondering, you know, as you were saying that they're looking to see if there's a possible retaliation for some earlier actions between some extremist groups. What has been the information that's been coming out from Scotland Yard that's led them to believe that there is a possible connection?
Well, there's been no official information from the police, from the Ministry of Defense, the equivalent of the Pentagon, or from the government itself about what the motivation for this was. And that's why this video is so extraordinary and so chilling to watch. This man who had just killed another man in the middle of the street went up to an eyewitness who was, we believe, to have just gotten off a bus right at that stop and invited him to start filming. And that's when he started talking about an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that Muslims are dying by British soldiers every day, to use his words, and this was retaliation. But otherwise, we have no confirmation of that. And in fact, we will have no confirmation of that for a while, because what happened after that video was taken was that armed police in London, and most police in London are not armed police were called to the scene. They confronted the man, and what eyewitnesses say happened is that the two men who actually apparently committed this murder began to run at police with their cleavers and possibly with a gun. We haven't confirmed that. And so police will presumably say they had no choice. They felt threatened and they opened fire on these two men. They survived, and they're both in the hospital being treated for wounds. But eyewitnesses suggest that these men were very calm when they were talking to the eyewitnesses. They saw police coming, and apparently it was almost like a suicide mission. They wanted to die, or they wanted to get shot by those armed police who responded to this incident.
And obviously the situation is still very fluid there, and we're taking a look at some live pictures over the scene in London there. As you can see, the investigators are getting on the scene there and starting to map out exactly the crime scene that had happened there. And certainly a lot of questions being raised right now about just exactly how quickly this all transpired, not only from the time of this attack, but also the time from police responding, because as you were saying, Nick, one of the eyewitnesses that got off of a bus not far from where this attack happened was being told by one of these suspected attackers to start filming this and to start capturing this. We know that at this point there is at least one video that was taken by a cell phone. And of course there could be others as well. That is something obviously Scotland Yard and certainly the ministry will be looking at as they're going to be putting together this investigation. But you can see right there from this aerial view, this is southeast London, not far from a school in a working class neighborhood, where one man was killed in a savage attack by two suspects with meat cleavers. Those two suspects are in the hospital now. Nick, do we know, you said both were injured, or at least that's the preliminary report for those suspects?
Yeah, we believe that armed police responded to the incident. The two men somehow ran at police or somehow made themselves very violent looking to police. The police almost immediately opened fire on them. We don't know how many shots. We don't know how badly they were injured, but they were both hit by police bullets, and that's when they were quickly evacuated by police to a nearby hospital. And the area is still, as you can see from some of these live pictures, is still very much a crime scene and very much closed down to what is a very crowded, popular neighborhood. There's a high-rise right there, so there's a lot of people who are having a hard time getting home. It's about 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. in London now, and so it's just the end of rush hour.
Okay, ABC's Nick Schifrin following this story that is still developing out of London. Nick, thank you for that.